In this skills demonstration, I would like to introduce controls that allow us to access two additional sensors which are pretty common on most mobile devices, the orientation sensor and the acceleration sensor. This helps us understand the position of our phone in space and how it's moving. Let's take a look. So, to start with, I'm going to find my sensor drawer and I'm going to add an acceleration sensor, accelerometer sensor, and an orientation sensor. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically just output the values that these sensors are collecting. But before I do that, I need to understand what it is I'm talking about. So let's look at the block editor and see what's available to me. We'll start with the orientation sensor. The orientation sensor is going to detect any changes in the orientation sensor is going to detect any changes in the position in space of the mobile device. In particular, it's looking at three variables: azimuth, pitch, and roll. These kind of describe the way that the phone is rotated in space. Okay, so let's see. Let me go ahead and print those values out for us so we can see what they look like. I'm going to add three labels to my screen to allow me to see those values to help me understand what it is they mean. So let's go into the block editor now again. Okay, so all I want to do is, as these come in, I want to set the text property for each of these labels. Set the text property to azimuth to be, and I'm going to make sure that I understand what they are. So I'm going to join first the word, the label, azimuth, colon, space. Azimuth, colon, space, and then get the azimuth value. Right? And let me duplicate that. I want to set label 2 to be my pitch. Get pitch. And I want label 3 to be my roll. Okay, so pretty simple. I'm detecting some information, some sensor information about the phone, the orientation of the phone, and I'm just printing it out. And it's kind of interesting. When I pop up my app, we see things are already changing, even though the phone's sitting there. And that's because the orientation sensor is actually really sensitive. Okay, so let's see how these values change. If I pick up my phone and I start turning it like this, notice that one of those values is really going to change a lot. Which one is it? It's the azimuth. It's changing quite a bit. It went from 190 degrees to 100 degrees, to 90 degrees. If I turn it a quarter turn this way, it's going to go up to 270 degrees. Right? So that's kind of what it's telling me, is the angle of rotation around this vertical axis, around this up-down axis. The pitch, let's see, if I tilt my phone forward like this, you see the pitch start to increase quite a bit. If I tilt it back, my pitch goes negative. So this angle, rotating around this axis, is the pitch. And then you can guess then that the roll is going to be rotating around this axis. So if I take my phone and tilt it from either side. Okay. So this kind of information is useful if you want to use the phone actually as an input device for controlling some animation on the screen. Or if you wanted to create a compass app, for example, you could just read off the azimuth value and it's telling you basically your heading of where you're going. Okay, the other one we added was the accelerometer sensor. And the accelerometer sensor is basically detecting motion in any one of those directions. Right? So I can say, am I moving the X, the Y, or the Z direction? The other one that's kind of interesting is I've got this idea of a shaking So if the accelerometer detects rapid motion back and forth in any direction, it considers it a shaking event. This can be kind of cool. Let me give you an example of this one. I'm going to have a text box. And here's what I'm going to do with my shaking event. When I detect that I'm shaking, I'm going to set my text box text back to being empty. So I come in here and I'm going to type something into my text box, and I pick it up and I shake the phone. It erases it. That's kind of a cool thing. You can think about ways we might have done that, ways we might have used that in some of the previous apps we've done. For example, going back to our first Doodler app, and you wanted to erase the screen, like an Etch-a-Sketch, instead of having the clear button, we could use the accelerometer to clear the canvas. Or maybe we wanted to go back to our dice example, and we wanted to roll the dice triggered based on the accelerometer. Shake the phone and it rolls the dice for me. That's a pretty cool way of doing it, right? Actually, that's a pretty simple thing to just demonstrate real quick here. I'm going to shake the phone and I'm going to generate a random number from 1 to 100, right? 14, 68, 24. This is a makings of a lottery app. Picking your random numbers for you, right? All right. So that's the accelerometer and the orientation sensor.